Okay, well, thank you. We'll begin. This is August 20th, 2025. This is the Everett City Council Budget Committee meeting. We're actually having this meeting before our council meeting. So those of you might be watching, I encourage you all to attend in person, or I'm thankful that you're watching this via remote or via recorded. So we have three things on our for items today on our agenda. Year-to-date general government budget performance for June 2025, financial forecasting and impact on the budget deficit. And our third agenda item is contingency reserve. We're going to cover our rainy day fund and do a review of that fund. So to begin, we'll start with administration, if they would like to begin.
Yes, I'll just mention that Finance Director Heidi and Assistant Director Jamie Lee are here, and she's getting up shared screen in a second to do the presentation and just walk through all of those topics as kind of one briefing. So
Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Heidi Berlantes, Finance Director. Joining me is Jamie Lee Graves, our Assistant Finance Director. Council President Schwab already listed all of our agenda items, so we'll just get started on the year-to-date budget performance review as of June 30th.
All right, starting off with general government revenues. As of June 30th, revenues exceeded year-to-date projections by $2,253,177, or 2.8%. This increase is driven primarily by B&O tax revenues, along with strong performance in grants and other tax categories. Overall, revenues ended the second quarter on a strong note. Taking a closer look at our major revenue streams, business and occupation tax receipts are up $734,271, or 7.9% year to date. Our largest B&O payments are received quarterly in January, April, July, and October. Sales tax receipts are closely aligned with the budget, coming in just $283,489, or 1.5% below projections year to date. As you know, sales tax receipts have a 2-month lag, so June receipts reflect April activity. This table lists our 6 largest sales tax categories, the percent each category makes up of total sales tax receipts based on June 30th results, as well as how each one is performing relative to budget. Wholesale trade, manufacturing, and information came in above budget, while retail, construction, and accommodation and food services have fallen short. As mentioned, sales tax receipts are tracking close to budget, which is a strong position compared to what some of our peer jurisdictions have reported recently. We continue to see certain categories impacted by broader national economic pressures, things like trade policy shifts, interest rates, and tariffs. At the same time, some categories are performing above expectations. Those gains are helping to offset the shortfall in other categories, which is why overall our sales tax revenues remain largely on target. Moving on to general government expenditures. Just like with revenues, we base our monthly expenditure forecasts on historical trends, which helps us plan for the natural ebb and flow of expenses throughout the year. We ended the first half of the year in a good position. Year-to-date expenditures came in $4.8 million, or 5.8% under budget. Departments have shown commendable fiscal discipline, consistently keeping expenditure below budget. Looking ahead, expenditures are expected to align more closely with the budget as the annual pavement maintenance overlay project is now underway. Next on the agenda.
excuse me, Council President, and before you move on from that, I think so that really sums up kind of our June financial report. And I just wanted to add that we have a truly exceptional finance team that has done an amazing job of forecasting, not just this year, but in previous years as well. And I think that has really helped us in comparison to some of our other cities, you know, and kind of the balance in our city with manufacturing and sales tax, I think is also very helpful. So we have that B&O tax to buffer kind of some of the ebbs and flows in sales tax. But truly, this team has done a great job of being very conservative with their forecasting so that when we do see lulls, that we're still in a good position as a city. So I just wanted to publicly say that and thank you and your entire team for the really good forecasting work that you continue to do for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Vogely.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
I'm just curious for sales tax, are brick and mortar retail sales captured differently or all the same as online sales? Like I think I know that online sales are collect sales tax for the city. Maybe I'm wrong, but can you tell me about that a little bit?
Yeah, and the online sales would be based on where those goods or services are being delivered. So as an example, if the consumer were to deliver goods and services within Everett city limits, then we would receive those tax revenues.
And can we differentiate where brick and mortar sales and online sales come from or not? I don't know.
It's a little bit more difficult for companies that do have a brick and mortar, but do have an online presence.
I think
Yeah.
it's something we could look at because there's some online retailers that we know really well. But we also, our finance department, it's important that they keep that data. There's state regulations on what we can release. So we couldn't say we got this amount from this business.
Okay.
But maybe we could look at a way to kind of draw sort of a bigger bucket around that and see if there's kind of an interesting story to tell. So. But
Thank you.
maybe Patty would have it off the top of her head, but probably not tonight. So, but I think it's
No,
something
no.
we could look at. Yeah.
It's what with current scenarios running around. That's all. Thanks. Just
Thank you.
curious.
Councilmember Ryan.
Thanks. For my clarification, so if there's a local brick and mortar that also has an online presence and ships out of state or whatnot, does the sales tax go to where they're shipping to, or since they have a brick and mortar here, does that sales tax stay here in Everett?
I believe the online sales would still be based off of where it's being delivered to.
Thanks.
Potentially a portion of the B&O, correct, would be here, yeah. And I had a quick question. Remind me the percentage of our overall revenue percentages of our B&O versus sales tax.
I have that, yeah. So we receive 13% of our gen fund revenue from B&O taxes, and then 24% is from sales tax, and then 25% from property taxes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Great, thank you so much. Okay.
So next on the agenda is an overview of the city's contingency reserve or rainy day fund. This fund was established for times of extraordinary need that demand budget adjustments and to ensure the city can maintain service levels and protect against downturns and unpredictable events. This includes situations such as natural or man-made disasters, civic disturbances, and economic downturns. This is separate from the 20% general government ending fund balance requirement. The 20% ending fund balance threshold addresses the short-term need for stable cash flow and risk mitigation in day-to-day operations, while the rainy day fund focuses on mitigating the larger, longer-term financial risk associated with economic downturns and unforeseen emergencies. Having both allows the city to be prepared for both the expected fluctuations in revenue and expenditures and the unexpected and potentially more severe financial challenges that may arise. In 2025, our estimated rainy day reserve balance is approximately $3.87 million.
Councilmember Zingle.
Well, just to make sure I understand the implications of this, I think from the standpoint of running a business, may be different for a city, but it seems like moderating those fluctuations, even if the revenue comes back, if you have to make short-term cuts, that's destructive to the long-term operation of the city, to employee continuity and expertise and to projects. So I guess I want to make sure that sounds to me like that's the same in a municipal environment as it is in the private sector, that mitigating those things, even if you know the revenues are going to come back, if you have to take a short-term hit, that's destructive. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, the fund balance is, how we kind of balance our operational day to day, but this is really, if something odd happens, like a Boeing strike or something like that, where we're gonna really get impacted. But we want to be able to maintain all those services and not flux with that significant impact, then we can use the rainy day fund to maintain and replenish it at a later date.
Yeah, I had a question about the rainy day fund. We are, there's a RCW that has a cap and it's a percentage based on revenue. Could you go more detail on that? Thanks.
It's actually based on assessed property tax values.
Okay, it is. Oh, okay, thank you. And what is that, 4%?
37.5 cents per $1,000 of assessed value.
Okay. That's the cap limit of that fund.
Right.
So if it happens to go above it, then we've been staying at the cap then? Has that been pretty much, we're below the cap?
Yes, we are below the cap.
Okay, what would be a full, do you have that? What would a cap be? If we went to the limit, what would it be?
Around $10 million.
Okay.
So this would be a good policy for council to discuss we have a great policy that dictates our fund balance and what we should maintain as fund balance around at least 20%. And we typically maintain more like 30%. And that is kind of a policy that you all set, but we don't have a policy for the rainy day fund. And so that would be a great discussion item for this council to decide. And if you wanted to set it at the cap, for example, just like we fund CIP, kind of those capital funds, you would then have a plan to fund the rainy day fund to the cap.
Okay. Councilmember Zalingo.
A good point, and I guess I'm thinking about what would be useful in having that discussion, informing that, and maybe if we can look back at the last, I don't want to be assigning tasks here until we decide this is what we specifically want to do, but if we could look back at the past 20, 25 years or so, what happened to that fund, how it varied and why, then that might give us insight into, do we want to do something different than we have been doing? I mean, it's not been identified as some particular gap, but it does make sense to, like we're doing with the rest of the budget, look ahead, look comprehensively, avoid surprises, and do things with a really historically informed perspective.
Oh. I do just want to reiterate what Jamie Lee had mentioned. So our 20% general government ending fund balance is really meant for the day-to-day operations. So that is more closely tied to our programs and our services versus the rainy day fund, which is really likened to more of a reserve for those unforeseen circumstances. So the concept here is by contributing to the rainy day fund as opposed to the general government annually, as an example, then we would be forced to reduce some type of program or services if we are prioritizing a contribution to the rainy day.
Councilmember Bogley.
And how do we usually get money into the rainy day fund?
That would normally come through an original budget. And if it's not there, then it would be through a budget amendment.
Maybe a general fund contribution.
Council
Okay.
budgets, yeah.
On a regular basis, or is that what would be discussed?
That would be
Mhm.
a policy.
Okay, and then I lost it, but I think it was something about, has it been around the $3 million, $4 million mark for quite some time? And so it rarely, I know we used it after COVID or during. So I have memory of some conversations about that. But I've lost the actual question, so thanks.
Yeah, I mean, typically, if we did not have a structural budget deficit, there's this, filling your reserve to up to that cap might be a good plan. So it's probably a future conversation. Just like many of those things, once we address kind of the underlying issue of the structural deficit, then this is a really good area to focus on.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Right. So just wanted to let you all know that the finance team is working diligently to finalize the 2026 preliminary budget, which will be the foundation for projecting an updated 6-year financial outlook, as well as drive our future budget briefings. The schedule and what is noted in council's budget calendars to provide you with an updated 6-year outlook in September during that budget committee meeting. Tonight, we will focus on how financial forecasting influences our budget deficit projections over time. I will walk you through the 2025 budget and how the deficit has evolved since it was first projected in 2021. The chart shows the 2025 budget deficit projection as it was shown in each of the original budgets starting in 2021. The red line that shows the deficit increasing demonstrates the deficit would have grown every year had the city not taken action. We know that we are required by law to have a legally balanced budget. However, we did find it important to show what would happen had the city not taken action to address the deficit projections every year. The downward green line trend shows the projected budget deficit decreases year after year until it is down to $0 in 2025, indicating a legally balanced budget. This simple trend demonstrates a key point, which is that changes made in each year's budget also prompts changes to the 6-year outlook. So why does the budget deficit projection change each year? So there are many reasons, but I'd like to go through 4 of them with you tonight. Forecasts are not static. The budget forecast is like a snapshot in time. It reflects the best information that we have at one point in time. But just like the economy changes, our forecast also changes with it. Every year we update it to account for new data, shifting revenues, and changing costs. This helps us make better, more informed decisions and keeps us from relying on outdated information. Prior budget cuts may reduce future deficits. Many reductions we make in one year carry forward permanently. That means they don't just solve the immediate gap, but they continue to reduce the pressure on future budgets. In past years, we've made difficult decisions to reduce spending, sometimes by eliminating programs, projects, or staff positions. Many of those cuts become part of our ongoing budget reality. But even with those reductions, the cost of maintaining our core services, such as police, fire, streets, and parks, still continues to grow each year. Prior cuts can help balance a budget at the time, but they don't stop future cost increases. Economic conditions drive revenue volatility. Most of the city's general government revenue come from taxes, as you know, which rise and fall with the economy. That means when the economy grows, we see increases and vice versa. Revenue growth is usually modest, but during downturns, collections can slow dramatically, which widens our deficit. For structural, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Okay, my apologies. Over here. I can continue. Okay. Structural cost pressures do persist. Even if we don't expand any programs or add new services, our costs naturally rise faster than our revenues. Wages, healthcare, utilities, and the cost to repair and replace infrastructure all grow faster than our tax revenues. This is what we call our structural gap or our structural deficit, and that built-in imbalance creates the long-term fiscal pressure that we face. What this example shows is that the budget is a living plan. It shifts as conditions change, as decisions are made, and as we respond to the community's needs. You may see different deficit projections from year to year, and that's to be expected. Each year, we reforecast based on the latest revenue numbers, inflation, labor agreements, new laws, and the overall economy. Sometimes the outlook improves and sometimes it worsens, but every change you see reflects a more accurate and responsible forecast. By being transparent about those changes, we can plan more effectively, protect the services that our residents rely on, and keep the finances on a stable path. And that's all for our presentation. Would like to open it for questions.
Thank you. Questions? Councilmember Zarlingo.
Just thinking back to when we were talking about the annual 1% limit on property taxes versus the consumer price index versus the kind of city's various price indexes. If I remember right, the city's inflation for the city ends up being maybe 1% or so higher than the consumer price index kind of on the long term. Is that far off? And is that related to one of the things driving one of the things you talked about in terms of expenses growing faster than revenue tending to?
Yeah, I think it would all depend on how stable the overall economy is. So we have seen inflation at 10.1% locally, which was higher than the national average. Right now, as far as June to June, we were at 2.7. That's still above the federal target of 2%. And then in comparison to the property tax you mentioned, which shows a 1% annual growth.
And the 2.7 you were talking about, that's kind of the typical consumer price index. And then I think certainly hearing this from Public Works as well in some of their projects that they were seeing something that was maybe 3.5% or something like that, but are on the order of 1% or so, even more than the consumer
Yes,
price.
the construction index usually is greater than the consumer price index.
Thanks.
Councilmember Vogely.
My question is about tariffs and when the city might see the can't think of the right popular word, but the bad things start to happen with tariffs, because like our budget is 2 months, the information for June is from April. Moving forward, like I saw something online, because everything's true online, right? But like a toy store is going to really see their price increases in October. And so that's going to be when tariffs really start affecting the people at large. And so I imagine if it's affecting the people at large, it's going to be affecting the municipalities that provide services for the people at large. Could you go into that for a 1-minute thing? I mean, it's just kind of a general question, but something to not look forward to.
I will say on our construction projects, we are starting to kind of see that trickle in our invoices and quotes, and we're just working with our vendors and contractors on how to manage that.
We're also seeing it with the reduced construction, right? So it's that fear of what's going to hit. So we're already experiencing some of those losses, even though the actual impact isn't here yet. But we're starting to see it in the invoices that are coming our way. It's increased costs.
That's all. It's just, yeah.
Any other questions about the presentation? I just wanted to make a comment about the forecasting. Obviously, in some of our in our neighborhood, some of our neighboring cities have had some challenges about their team being in their forecasting efforts. I know obviously there's a lot of variables. I want to thank this team for I would say, I mean, knock on wood, on the amount of work and the accuracy that you've presented over the years. Even as not as a council member, in some of my other roles, I've wanted them to be, the forecast to be larger because we all want to provide services. And so I think the approach over time has been credible. And I just really appreciate that, especially this time when I see some of our neighbors having more challenges than we do. So just want to make that comment. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. Is that anything new before the agenda or anything? Okay, with no further business, the committee is adjourned.